little aloha in our day. Spread a little aloha around the world. At breakfast with Bob.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Kona and Huggos on the Rocks. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Master Spas, SFuels Go Longer, HOKA Let's Fly, deboer wetsuits, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Zoot Sports Original Triathlon brand, Quintana Premium Plus Sports, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation celebrating our 30th anniversary. Our next guest, four-time silver medalist at the Ironman World Championship, 70.3 world champion, and only one of our favorite people on the planet, Lucy Charles-Barclay, joins us from her hidden estate out by Waikoloa somewhere. How you doing, Luce?
Hey, Bob. Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm spectacular. So talk a little bit about, this was an interesting year, because just dealing with the third metatarsal, it was ended up with a stress fracture, not a stretch reaction, and that pretty much put a detour in your season.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even a stress fracture in itself, really. There was no warning signs. I was racing at the 70.3 in Germany in Kraichgau, and I felt a bit of pain in my foot on the run. I actually thought there was a stone in my shoe.
Yeah.
And stopped for a second to look, and I was like, I can't see anything. Oh, well, I'll just carry on, and managed to run one of my best runs off the bike and finish second behind Laura Philipp. And the next day got home, re-x-rayed the foot, and it had completely broken through the metatarsal. So we're still not quite sure what happened. We think it might have happened running into the swim. The adrenaline's high. I might have run over a rock. So yeah, that kind of put a spin on my season this year that we didn't want. But luckily now I'm healthy. I've overcome that, and I definitely feel stronger again for kind of coming out the other side of quite a big injury.
Well, and it's funny because the last time you went through something like this, you sort of knew, right? And this was just came out of nowhere, and that because you hadn't felt any niggles beforehand, right? It just sort of just one of those things that just happens when you're racing and training.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite last minute. We decided to go and do the race anyway, because I just had been feeling really good in training that week. I think it was 2 weeks after Ibiza, and I felt like I'd come around really well after that race, and we're seeing some great form in training. So we're like, why not? Might as well go and do the race, test the fitness, see where I'm at. So I definitely wouldn't have gone and done the race if I'd felt like there was a slight bit of pain in my foot. So it really was a shock, and it was quite difficult to take because there had been no like onset of a build up of, oh, there might be something going on. It was just like, bam, you're out now. You've got to recover from another injury. And we felt like we just got the injury behind us last year. So it's definitely been a really tough couple of years, and just getting the confidence again to trust my body when there's been another injury. I think that's been quite tough this year.
So when you did Asian Open, and that was you ended up getting fifth there, that must have made you feel like, okay, I'm going to be all right.
Yeah, I think I really needed to do that race to kind of blow off the cobwebs and really get that trust back in my body before doing my big block of work for Kona. And it definitely did that. Like, I remember being on the race and there were still some demons in the back of my mind, like, is my foot hurting, or am I pushing this a bit too hard? Like, I just really had to, I guess, get past that before I could go and do this big block of work leading into what is arguably the biggest race of the season. And I definitely feel like that's helped and allowed me to have a really solid block leading into this race and just trust myself and trust my body that I can push it pretty hard and it's not just going to break on me again.
And were you doing your big block out in Lanzarote again?
No, so we actually decided to do the block at home this year, which is something I've never done before, like a really solid 6 weeks based at home, which obviously our climate at home is not the same as Kona. So we had to do a lot of indoor training, just really trying to mimic the conditions of Kona. So using a sauna, training indoors with the heating on, just getting used to being uncomfortable in the heat again. And it's nice to be at home. I feel like home comforts is something that we often miss as athletes when we're traveling the world all the time, racing and training. So it was nice to have the family around a little bit, and obviously the dogs as well. And my husband Reese there all the time to support me. It made a big difference.
So this year we have a little bit of a wild card. Somebody you've raced before. Taylor Knibb is now participating in the event. How does that change things?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. It's amazing for the sport. It just makes the race that bit more exciting. And I think it's a really courageous move from her to just come and step up to the full distance, having never done an Ironman before and coming to the biggest race on the circuit. But on the same thing, I think actually it's an amazing opportunity for her. Like there's no pressure. She can just go and enjoy it and see how she stacks up over this distance. So yeah, I think fair play to her. It's going to make it really exciting, and she could potentially be a really good ally for me in the race as well.
That's what I was thinking, because obviously the woman can ride the bike. and,
She sure can.
Yeah, she can ride the bike. Yesterday, I think she was a couple minutes back behind you in the swim. That was she. I asked her how long was the swim. She goes, "That was a long, long, long swim." She's like, "Oh my god!" In ITU racing, you keep your goggles really tight because you're worried about them coming off. And the whole time she's going, "These are way too tight. I can't believe it." So she's sort of learning as she's going. But she's someone who, if she's coming up or if she's coming up from behind, that's somebody you could have. Last year you had Finella. There could be somebody there.
Yeah, and it definitely just helps having someone else around. Like when I'm riding on my own, sometimes you can kind of drift into your own mind and be like, actually, am I pushing hard enough? I don't know what's going on behind me. So to have another athlete that I imagine is going to be pushing pretty hard or potentially pushing as hard as I want to, then it's someone just good to pace off of, if nothing else, or maybe have a conversation when we switch leads or something. So yeah, we'll have to see how it pans out. You never know what could happen, but it'll just be nice to have some company if she's around.
When you first came here, obviously you'd come here as an age grouper, but as a pro, you've gotten second place every time you've raced here. What is it about this place that obviously works well for your skill set?
It's just an amazing place. Like I've come here since 2015. I came as an age grouper and it was just so magical. I remember sharing a house with Joe Skipper and Lucy Gossage, and they were big idols of mine. And it was just amazing to follow what they were doing in their training leading up into the race, and learning from two of the best to do it, from GB certainly. So it's always been somewhere where I've wanted to rise to the occasion and race to the best of my ability. And I am definitely someone who enjoys racing in the heat. I do not enjoy being cold. So the heat definitely favours me. And we always seem to do a very focused block leading into this race, which has always paid off. So hopefully this year will be no different.
So when you look back at your triathlon career, obviously winning that world title in St. George, that once you win a world title, that puts you in a different level than other athletes. Do you look at that as your best race, or the race that you look at is better than that for you personally? It means more to you personally.
I think that it has to be definitely my best performance all round across swim, bike and run. I had the fastest split on each discipline, and it was just this day where everything came together. And I think potentially since that race, I haven't been back at that form since, because I've had 2 injuries to deal with. And actually in this block, I felt like I've seen glimpses of the athlete that I was leading into that race, which does really excite me for this race. It makes me equally nervous because I feel like I have the potential to put down a really great performance. And the memories from that race were, I guess I just felt like I was floating the whole day. So if I can have a day like that, that would be incredible. And I remember, I think it was when Jan Frodeno broke the record here in Kona. I remember running out on the Queen K and I was heading out and he was coming back and he just smiled and looked like he was floating, and it just looked so easy. And I was like, oh, I just want to have a moment like that on the Queen K. So hopefully it can be this time.
So we've got, Annie Hogg is coming back, and the women's field, Laura Phillip. There are so many amazing athletes. Do you like the concept? What I loved last year here was having the women race one day, the men race the other day, and women were out cheering for the guys were cheering for the women, because it's a big community. Nice was for the guys, and having 2,000 women here is a great statement, but it's also, we're sort of missing the guys being here. What are your thoughts on the separate locations for Ironman World Championship?
Yeah, I definitely already missed the camaraderie with the male pros, just when you're training out on the course. And there's just such a good, I guess, level of respect between all the athletes, and
Yes.
we just kind of bounce off each other. And even when we've been racing on the same day, it's exciting to see how the male race is unfolding, even when we're racing as well. And last year it was great that we had the men out supporting us, and then vice versa. So I think it's hard not to have them here, but on the flip side of that, it's amazing that us as women have our own day on what is the most historic place in the sport. It's where the history of the sport started.
Right.
And actually the media coverage has been just as big, and it's been amazing. I kind of maybe anticipated that there would be less attention, but actually it feels like there might be even more attention around our race this year. So that's really great to see that even as female athletes, people are so interested in watching us. And you can't deny that we have got this incredibly strong field of women. So the excitement should be there. It's going to be a really exciting race, and I can't wait to be part of it.
Yeah, I think one of the limitations back in the day, you would see the top 3 or 4 women when the men and women were racing together. But it was so difficult to get motos back for people who were coming up from behind. So you really didn't get to see the real race play out. Now, with it just being women on the course, you're able to see the whole pro field and cover the entire pro field, which is, you know, it's important to have folks like yourself who are who are drawing big numbers in terms of social media. But we also need that next generation to be successful for the sport to grow worldwide. And just seeing how some of the folks who are coming here for the very first time, the excitement that Taylor's creating, that has to make you feel good, because you know, you come from open water swimming, you come from that swimming background that's a lot of times, you know, not quite as open, right? Not quite as open to the growth that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the open water swimming, we definitely wouldn't have anywhere near the number of views watching or having the interest in the sport that I was doing then. So this sport is so exciting, and bringing in new athletes like Taylor stepping up is just drawing more and more attention to our sport. And obviously having the women only day as well, it just brings more opportunities for other women to be inspired to do this, or maybe not do an Ironman, but get into triathlon, give it a go, and just be inspired to take the next step in their sporting journey. So it is exactly what we need for the sport. And I do hope that we put on an amazing show to inspire more women to give it a go as well.
Yeah, from my perspective, you've just been such a great role model from the sport, because you're coming from that world where you're looking at a black line, right? You're not, you know, spectators are up in the stands, but you're not really involved with them. You're not racing with age groupers. You're not hanging with age groupers. You've embraced, just from a social media perspective and just giving back. How important has that been? Just keeping you, training can be very lonely, but when you're doing it for other reasons, and you're doing it because you know there's a little Lucy out there right now who's looking at, they're watching you and going, I want to get into the sport because of her, right? I don't know how much you saw that in swimming, but I'm betting you're seeing a lot more now.
Yeah, I didn't see a great deal of it in swimming. You'd maybe get the odd younger athlete that would be inspired by what I've done and maybe come and speak to me. But definitely now, I guess with the world of social media, just being able to reach more people, share my journey and the highs and lows. And there's definitely days where I'll be out training and it's really tough and I'm questioning, oh, why am I doing this? And then I'll come home and read a message from a young athlete who said that I've inspired them to try riding a bike or do their first ever triathlon or put their battle grades in and yeah, just take on a new challenge. And for me, that makes it all worthwhile. It's like, this is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm pushing myself, because if they can give it a go, then I can continue to push and try and reach the next level in what I'm doing too.
Last year when you came here, you didn't even know if you'd be racing, right? Because you were dealing with injuries for big chunks of the season. You get here, and I'm guessing the fact that you got silver there, other years you were here to win, and winning was really the main deal because you'd gotten silver a few times. If you're going to be on a podium, you might as well be looking down at people and, you know, not up at people. So last year, I'm guessing that just finishing was a win, right? Because of what you'd gone through, your expectations were different because you knew there was a great chance with what you're dealing with. You wouldn't even get to the start line.
Yeah, I mean, when I got told I had a stress fracture in my femoral neck, they actually said like, Kona, you need to rule that out. You need to be looking at next season. Like this is too big of an injury. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't want to let that race go. Like we'd already had to miss one because of COVID, so I was like, no, I don't want to miss another one. And I remember thinking we could do this, but it's going to be a real long shot to get back in time. And I think that was the biggest thing when I was just back on the island. It was just being so grateful for the fact that I was back on the start line, and any result would have been a win. Just being there was a win. So actually to come away with second, I was just so surprised that I managed to put down the day that I did. And I remember even on the last 10K on the run thinking, I've still got energy. Like I've never felt like this before. So I think that was probably massively down to nutrition. And I'd really focused on that leading into the race, but just having that energy late in the race. And I remember I was being chased down by Annie Haug, and I thought she was going to pass me at any second. And seeing Reese out on the Queen K, and he was like, you've got to dig now because she's coming. I think she was like 20 seconds behind. And
Yep.
I just dug in super deep and was just sprinting for the finish and managed to hang on for that second place. And I guess people from the outside could look at it and say, oh, it's just another second place. But for me, it was like overcoming everything, and being back here in second was like the ultimate win. And I was just delighted with the result at the end of the day.
Are you looking at this race the same way since you've been dealing with the foot issue this year? Or this time it's like, okay, last year was just getting to the start line was great. This year, I'm here to win.
Yeah, I'm trying to go in with that no pressure approach. I think that helps quite a lot when you're on the biggest race of the year. And it's hard to say Kona is just another race. It really isn't. It's the World Championship. But at the same time, I do feel in amazingly good shape. So I just want to kind of race to my potential, what we've seen in training. Like I've had a really good block. I don't feel like I have any excuses. The injury is behind me now, and I do feel solid on all disciplines. And yeah, just hope that I can put that full day together. And I mean, if that doesn't mean I win, but I put down a solid performance across the whole day, I have to be happy. But yeah, the win would be an absolute dream come true.
I love it. Lucy, thank you for always being so generous with your time. Love what you bring to the sport. There's this, what are you up to? Like 500,000 followers now? Something like that?
We're getting there slowly. My
Nah,
sister's doing an amazing job. So
yeah, you guys are, and your sister is doing amazing photography. It's a fun little team, and you guys are doing great stuff. I love seeing it because all it's doing is growing the sport. It's getting new people into the sport, and not just new young people. I had a couple of moms just came over, and they're like, "When's Lucy coming? When's Lucy coming?" I'm like, "Well, you're going to watch her on Zoom this year, but she'll probably do seasons with us on Sunday."
Fingers crossed.
Love it. Lucy, give my best to Reese, and thank you so much for taking time.
Thanks, Bob. Take care.
This is Breakfast with Bob. This is our Kona edition. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with more interviews live here at Huggers on the Rocks. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.